Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
Hello and welcome to the Middlemen of 5 jurors on Enterprise TV. Today, there are 3 of us. With me are Juror Evans Ufeli, who will be examining governors governing from outside of their states. Also here with me is Juror Cyril Abaku, who will be examining the allegations of certificate forgery at the Lagos State University, LASU. I will be examining if democracy is truly working for Africa. Before we delve into these 3 cases, please let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The government wield unrestricted power. Society is a residue of the out of control called governance, and the citizens sit at the middle of this all, the far-reaching influence of the outcome of states at the receiving end. The jurors here are the middlemen. With 5 jurors, a case is heard, a verdict is reached. The citizens get to know their fate, how the outcome of state policies affect his life in the scheme of things. From the jurors, the actions and inactions of government policies and regulations are probed, critiqued, debated, and the citizens are informed. A look at the citizens' corresponding obligation is ripped open for interrogation.
Enterprise TV, your one-stop shop for news, programs, human angle stories, the economy, sports, and much more. We go the extra mile to bring incredible details to you. So hop on the train now. Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
Welcome back to the Middlemen of 5 jurors on Enterprise TV. I am Olajumoke Alaode James, and today I'm going to be examining if democracy is really working for Africa, or we ought to go back to monarchy. Why? Now, for several years, I've had this question on my mind because election after election, rather than be satisfied with election results, citizens, particularly in Nigeria, become disenfranchised. Unlike the days of monarchy where we would get justice from going to the monarchs, Nigerians no longer even trust our judiciary. We are no longer satisfied with the kinds of government that we get. And normally people would say that the people deserve the kind of government they get because we're all accomplices. Either we sell our votes or we do nothing in the face of misgovernance or lack of governance, to put it rightly. Now, we have even adopted 2 different systems of government, the parliamentary and the presidential. So we seem like a confused nation where rather than think about the welfare of the people, the political elites conduct elections with billions of hard-earned taxpayers' money, and eventually it's the Supreme Court that gives us a governor or decides who the president ought to be, rather than the people choosing. Now, in the days of monarchy, we had a system where even the monarchs had the governing council who decided if a monarch should be suspended or sent out of a village or a town for indiscipline. But now, our leaders have become Kabiye Osi. Nobody questions them. They decide when the elections will happen. They decide who will become the governor or the president. And the people, we are just their willing victims because poverty has been weaponized. Now, my ruling is democracy is not working for Africa. We ought to go back to monarchy or have a referendum, right? Where the people decide that this is the system of government that we want to work for us. Either our monarchs who have become ceremonial in nature now, we allow them to govern in small localities and communities, or our local governments that have become mundane, dysfunctional, and they ordinarily ought to be the closest to us, right? If my local government is working, I don't need to ask the president to come and tar my streets or clear my gutters. I'm not getting governors because they've become dysfunctional, right? Now, if they perform optimally, then we will not be questioning if democracy is working for Africa. That's why I'm saying we need to question or go back to our drawing boards.
Okay, I have a concurrent view to your case on the ruling, and I think it's fundamental that the Nigerian state need to go back to the drawing board. Democracy does not have a universality of operation. It is anchored on the prevailing circumstance of the country and the nuances of that country. But our case in Nigeria is we have practiced democracy in a way that will not lead us to any kind of development. You said a lot of funds are voted for elections. At the end of the day, it does not transcribe to anything positive. The poor are still getting poorer. The rich are still getting richer. So democracy is not a solution. And my concurrence to that is that I agree to the effect that we should go back to the drawing board and decide what democracy means for us in the context of development. Any other thing apart from that will mean that we are taking a poisonous leaf to a purification feast.
Are you saying that monarchy is poisonous?
No, I'm not saying monarchy is poisonous. Anything short of rearranging our democratic engagement will be like taking a poisonous leaf to a purification.
I have a dissenting view, Jumoke. The fact is that, debatably, we cannot be said to be more traditionalistic than the Indians who in 1973 chose to banish the monarchy and stay as a pure democracy. The fact is that in the modern world, whether you call it democracy, monarchy, diarchy, whatever you want to call it, let us make sure that the people are the ones who are authentically electing, choosing, selecting their leaders, by whatever name it is called. The people must be the ones who assert their right to choose the leaders. That's what I want.
Well, maybe we need to go to India to study how their democracy is working.
Well, of course, again,
are they multi-ethnic like Nigeria?
They are more multi-ethnic than Nigeria.
Okay. Again, 1.3 billion of them.
Population-wise, they are more. Religion, they are more. Ethnic groups, they are more. And yet, they've been able to find a way around it. So Nigeria has no excuse why she remains the way she is.
But they have not come out from poverty.
They were.
But Nigeria that chose to keep monarchies has overtaken them in poverty.
True. Because we are now the poverty capital of the world.
So to rate Nigeria and India in terms of poverty, you must do a lot of statistical dialectics.
Yes.
Because we're talking about the second most largest population country in the world.
In the world.
Yes, but it's relative.
Nigeria, who is not Nigeria is not even
we're 1/6 of India.
Yeah,
right?
but the fact that we are where we are shows that India is already beginning to get it right. Because the reality is that it's relative. If you have 10 people, 6 are poor, 4 are rich, and you have only 5 and 4 are poor and only 1 is rich, then relatively,
as the poverty capital, we even have, even though their population is more, we even have more poor people.
So it means that the problem is not monarchy or not. It's about the fact that we have not sat down to ask ourselves, what exactly do we want? Whether it is a diarchy, triarchy, whatever you want to call it, the people should be the ones to choose those who should lead them. And that's where democracy actually comes in. Democracy basically means that the power should be rested with the people first of all. Nobody should come and say, because my grandfather was the first person to come to this village, therefore I have the right to pursue over everybody. I mean, and you can't question my powers, you can't ask me questions. I don't think that's for civilized men and women.
All right, here is my case. Governors governing outside their state. There is a growing indication in Nigeria that most governors of their respective state do not reside in their states. Rather, they reside in Abuja, some reside outside the country, and from there they administer their states. And if you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the responsibility of a governor is quite very clear. It is that the governor should reside in the state and be the chief security officer of that state. Now, the citizens are the worst hit here because sometimes they can't even find their governors. It's either the governor is in Abuja or is outside the country. Now, there are 5 governors that are notorious for this in the current dispensation of Nigeria, one of which is the Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak of the APC. The second is Gombe State Governor Mohammed Inuwa Yaya. The third is Sokoto State Governor Ahmed Aliyu. Then we have the fourth one, Zamfara State Governor Dr. Dauda Lawal. Then we have the Kogi State Governor Yaya Bello. These governors are notorious for ruling their state from outside their state. Now, here is my ruling and judgment on this. The duties of a governor, as stated under the Constitution, are quite clear, and same does not include governing the state from outside the state. The governor is expected to stay within the state as the chief security officer of the state and ensure that the security and welfare of the citizens are preserved. I therefore hold that these governors are complicit and have ordered the state's House of Assembly of the respective state to commence an impeachment proceeding against these governors immediately. I shall rabbi again.
Rabbi Juro Evans, I absolutely agree with you. Now, Governor Yaya Bello, well, he's going out and he's replacing himself with a man who is a married woman. So I do not blame him. Youngest governor in the history of our Fourth Republic, and nobody dared to question him in his 8 years for maladministration. He would tell you, oh, he built this wonderful edifice, this hospital. Meanwhile, I don't know if he doesn't live in the state, how is he using the institutions that he's claiming that he built within Kogi? But I wonder how these governors are able to get away. Because the now Minister Matawale, when he was governor of Zamfara, never lived in Zamfara.
Yeah, he was in Abuja.
Now, you see the accusation, the new commissioner of finance is saying, oh, they did this, they did that, but they did. For instance, he bought vehicles for terrorists, but there are no public buses for transportation within the state. And again, is democracy working for Nigeria? But I absolutely agree with your verdict, which is that we should start, again, impeachment proceedings. Look at what is happening in Rivers State.
What you should ask is whether the State House of Assembly are independent. Many of them are appendages.
No, look at what's happening in Rivers State,
yes,
where the predecessor is even saying that he's playing politics, or that he wrote and signed checks. What was that? That he invested in all the people there. I mean,
in those states too, there's a case of impeachment proceeding
against the deputy governor.
And the instance of the governor.
Who is questioning the deputy governor? Who is questioning the governor? Who is not in the state?
The governor, yes.
Is this democracy working for Nigeria?
I concur with Juro Evans Ofeli, except that I think where we are is a case of a good thing in the hands of bad men, or a good thing being made to look bad. Otherwise, democracy, ask yourself this question: is democracy working elsewhere? If it's working elsewhere, it can't be the fault of democracy. It's the fault of those who have been given the responsibility to practice it. Yeah. And, the people are disempowered. Like he rightly said, the House of Assembly are basically appendages of the governors. And so there was a governor who addressed the state in 1999 from London or somewhere like that. Yes. From London, it was Independence Day. So
we've had a president who was deciding from
when you face an
Yes.
When you face an evil at the local government level, you see it amplified at the state level.
True.
When state level at state level, you see it even on a larger scale at the federal level. So at some point, you ask yourself, who is that to correct who? But in terms of the content of his case and judgment, I fully concur. I think that something has to give for this country to move forward.
But who will bail the cat?
Well, the citizen must do their bits, and that is to ensure that they occupy the available space and demand for good governance, failing which they may as well remain that way.
Victims of democracy.
And no longer cry that they are the ones who are the receiving end of it. When over time they become the ones who appear to be
you can't be docile and be pointing fingers that somebody is doing you bad. On the day you decide that enough is enough, then it will end.
All right, let me come to my own case. I want to pay some attention to goings on at the Lagos State University Ojo. It's clearly not the best of times for that school. The last thing the school wants is to be enmeshed in scandal. What we see happening there is bemusing. At the same time, it's criminal in nature. In the past few days, a story came into the limelight, revealing that there had been a certificate racketeering ring in the school to the effect that authentic LASU certificates were being issued and sold to highest bidders, depending on the nature of the course or discipline that is in negotiation. So, for example, some certificates are being sold for 2 million, some for as much as 3 million, like I said, depending on the kind of course that is in question. Now, this is the last thing a university wants to be associated with, because a university certificate and seal carries its authority, its power, its prestige, its integrity. But when that very integrity is in question, then there's nothing that the school can stand on. As we speak, the Dean of Student Affairs has been sacked, has been asked to go home. And this is a very serious matter, because if it's not handled carefully, a lot more heads could roll and things could get out of hand. Good to see, or good to know, good to find that the State House of Assembly has already summoned the Vice Chancellor of the school, the Commissioner for Tertiary Education in Lagos State, as well as other relevant top-ranking officials of the state government to come and account for what really is going on there. But you wonder, because the fact of the matter are not new to the authorities in the first place. In fact, the report did allude to the fact that the scandal had been on for some time, and that the DSS and other agencies had undertaken a sting operation before the current Vice Chancellor came into office. One wonders then, what has happened between that time and now? The report actually indicted the current Vice Chancellor of the school for what it said. It accused of sitting on the matter, because if the matter had indeed been initiated when a predecessor was in office, you wonder why it took this long and why it took a newspaper report for the matter to now be pushed to the forefront. It leaves a lot of questions to be asked. Did that report actually also name names, specific beneficiaries of this fraud? How people in the ICT department had access to the server to, impute names that never went to school, all sorts of things. And then the names of beneficiaries, people who had actually bought the certificates, are all out there. And it is only when this report came to the limelight that we are hearing that they've now sacked the Dean of Student Affairs and someone in the Vice Chancellor and all this. I thought that by now, measures stronger would have, landed on the table to make sure to send confidence back to the public that, look, LASU is not a school that will tolerate this sort of criminal activity, though it's still an accusation, but quite a strong accusation at that. Here's my ruling. With immediate effect, the people who have been so named, the police and the DSS, should swing into action and bring in for questioning all those who have been named, one directly and indirectly in this matter, who have questions to answer, be brought in and questioned immediately, and where necessary, charge them to court or take necessary actions in accordance with law to enable the reenactment of confidence in LASU as a brand, as a school, as the pride of Lagos State, as an institution and as an alma mater that is worth its name and worth its place in the hearts and minds of people. If that doesn't happen, then for a long time to come, it will be difficult to believe that this is a school that is worth being reckoned with.
Wow.
So my concurrence to your case and ruling is that I agree to an extent, to the extent that it is morally wrong for a school to sell certificates. I mean, what then do you tell those who genuinely went through the process? It is not just destroying the name of the school, but also destroying those who went through the school process genuinely. Because since certificates are all out there, no one can tell the one that was procured by true diligence and the one that was procured through a fraud. You understand? It was Olarosimi that said that when all birds fly with their backs, or how did he put it?
When all the lizards are on the ground with their stomach facing the earth, you don't know which of them has a stomach pain.
Yes, you don't know the one that has a stomach pain. So you cannot differentiate because someone has soiled the system.
True.
And it is quite unfortunate that that school is being superintended over similarly educated people. It is wrong, really, to have that done. But I want to also add that LASU is not the only school that is sending certificates. Yes, it's just the one in the limelight today for a bad reason.
Can never be Unilag.
Yes, no, it doesn't matter what school can be.
Until the scandal breaks, you never know. Until the scandal breaks, you never know.
You have argued some years back.
That can never be LASU.
So you can never tell. Like I said, it is wrong. But we need to know that. I know particularly of one other school too, that I don't mention the name, that had that issue of certificate scandals. To the point that they get through the exams and record, start to impute the listing from 100 level to the point
of course
you are able to.
Of course.
A lot of persons are involved, and this thing is getting out of hand. So I agree with that case and the group thereof.
I would want to question the need for buying a certificate. I know that we're certificate crazy in Nigeria, right? But why would anyone or a group of people think to subvert the system of going through? Oh, is it that, JAM, you can't pass JAM?
No,
Yes, there are a lot of people that
this is,
pass
and
JAM.
yes, and the miracle of nature is that somebody can be educated without schooling.
Yes.
Okay.
But the society rejects
Yes. So our society is the other way around. Whichever way it is, be schooled first before you're even educated, or be schooled even if you're not educated.
Don't even allow school to
yes, your education. So what they now do is that to contest for political office, they need these certificates to show that. Because of course, if you say you're not a graduate, people tend to look down on you in a country. So that is one major challenge that we have. In addition to that,
and you do not have 4 years.
Of course, and then I think in addition to that, if you can actually buy it,
why waste your time?
What is then the basis of wasting time to go to school for 4 years? Believe me, Jumoke, many years ago, when people say Nawayek, this matter Nawayek, that is trying to say that this thing is difficult. So a lot of people, even in the days of yore, in the 70s, in the 80s, people quietly forged WAEC certificates to.
Wow.
Do you remember that in this country, a presidential advisor was indicted?
True.
As forging his WAEC certificate?
Yes.
And what happened?
He
He was quietly told to go and see no more.
He was not prosecuted.
Right? Yeah, of course. So they told him, oh yeah, go and go.
Again, the current president has had certificate issued since 1999. Gani prosecuted him on first University of Chicago versus Chicago State University. Eventually, they said it was Tokunbo Afikuyomi who made the mistake of writing University of Chicago instead of Chicago State University. Again, the Chicago State University certificate that he presented to INEC for the 2023 elections have been under contention since before the elections. David Hunde did investigative journalism, and over the months, eventually, he went, to trial, and it was decided that the certificate he presented to INEC was not issued by the Chicago State University. So again, who will bail the cat?
The Supreme Court, you are a lawyer. What did the Supreme Court then say? The Supreme Court said it didn't matter.
No, the Supreme Court didn't say it didn't matter.
Okay.
The Supreme Court decided the issue on the basis of 2 letters from the university. one stating a different issue, the other stating a different issue on one matter. By the rules of law, if you have two pieces of evidence, two pieces of divergent evidence on one issue, the court will strike out both. The court will not admit any. So the rules of evidence and the rules of the court will not change because society wants a particular candidate to win an election at all costs. A candidate who, by virtue of the principles of law, have no sufficient evidence to ground this case. How be it that it is overwhelmingly true that he was played out of the game of politics. This has been the Middlemen on Enterprise TV. Join us on the next episode. The government wield unrestricted power. Society is a residue of the out of control called governance, and the citizens sit at the middle of this all, the far-reaching influence of the outcome of states at the receiving end. The jurors here are the middlemen. With 5 jurors, a case is heard, a verdict is reached. The citizens get to know their fate, how the outcome of state policies affect his life in the scheme of things. From the jurors, the actions and inactions of government policies and regulations are probed, critiqued, debated, and the citizens are informed. A look at the citizens' corresponding obligation is ripped open for interrogation.
Enterprise TV, your one-stop shop for news, programs, human angle stories, the economy, sports, and much more. We go the extra mile to bring incredible details to you. So hop on the train now. Enterprise TV, a traditional